Pray miracles over your life in Jesus' name, in Jesus' name.
Suspicions were further aroused when it was revealed that John Paul had pushed for Mica's immediate cremation, denying her family the opportunity to view her body and say their final goodbyes. In a shocking twist, reports surfaced that the Robeson County Sheriff's Office had reached out to the FBI for assistance in the case, despite their initial insistence that Mica's death was a clear-cut suicide. The involvement of federal authorities only served to deepen the mystery surrounding Mica's fate and raised questions about the local law enforcement's ability to conduct a thorough and unbiased investigation. As the community rallied around the Miller family, demanding answers and accountability, a glaring light was cast on the inadequacies of South Carolina's laws in protecting victims of domestic abuse and stalking. Advocates called for the passage of Mica's Law, a bill designed to strengthen protections for those suffering from coercive control and intimate partner violence. The proposed legislation aimed to close the loopholes that had allowed John Paul to allegedly terrorize his wife with impunity, despite her repeated pleas for help. In the face of mounting pressure, the once untouchable John Paul Miller found himself removed from his position as pastor at Solid Rock Church, his reputation tarnished by the cloud of suspicion that hung over him. Yet even as he proclaimed his innocence, the court of public opinion had already begun to pass judgment, fueled by the harrowing accounts of Mica's alleged abuse and the unanswered questions surrounding her final moments. As the community grappled with the loss of one of their own, the specter of Mica's death loomed large, a haunting reminder of the failures of a system that had allowed her cries for help to go unheeded. The case of Mica Miller has become a symbol of the urgent need for change, a clarion call for a society that far too often turns a blind eye to the insidious nature of domestic abuse. As the investigation continues to unfold, the world watches with bated breath, hoping that the truth will finally come to light and that Mica's tragic story will serve as a catalyst for long overdue reform. In the end, the mystery surrounding Mica Miller's death may never be fully resolved, the answers to the many questions that plague her loved ones forever lost to the depths of Lumber River. Yet, even in the face of such uncertainty, the legacy of Mica's life endures. As the case continues to captivate the nation, speculation runs rampant about what truly transpired in those fateful final moments. The court of public opinion has already begun to pass judgment, with many convinced that the charismatic John Paul Miller played a role in his wife's untimely demise. But what does the future hold for this enigmatic figure? Will he face the full force of the law, or will he slip through the cracks, his secrets forever buried with his late wife? After Mica's death, her family leveled out base allegations against Miller, claiming he was paying for sex workers and engaging with minors in the church. As of now, those allegations have yet to be proven. As the investigation unfolds, the world watches with bated breath, eager for any morsel of information that might shed light on this dark and twisted tale. Advocates are pushing for the passage of Mica's Law, a bill designed to strengthen protections for victims of domestic abuse and stalking, to ensure that no one else must suffer the same fate as this beloved pastor's wife. Mica's family still refuses to believe that her death was self-inflicted, convinced something is lurking beneath the surface of the case. However, it seems that Mica had been pushed to the brink until she could no longer resist. For Mica, the only way out was death. The question is, should John Paul pay for what he ultimately drove his wife to? The last moments 30-year-old Mica Miller is captured alive show her forlorn and broken, standing at the checkout point as she purchases the gun that will end her life. Mica takes a deep breath and shakes her head. Her eyes look heavy as if she hasn't slept in days. Compared to the videos she posted on social media months before, she is a shadow of her former self, her battle with mental illness, and the contentious relationship with her estranged pastor husband pushing her to the brink. Sadly, for Mica, she would not win the battle. On the 27th of April 2024, Mica would use the gun she had bought to end her life in a single shot. But even though the evidence pointed to suicide when news of her death hit the public sphere, the community was convinced of another theory. Mica had been murdered. In the early morning hours of April 27th, 2024, 30-year-old Mica Miller's body was discovered in the serene waters of Lumber River State Park in North Carolina. That day, a fisherman had heard the cries of a woman downstream before an unmistakable gunshot. On the banks of the river, Mica's bag was found with her identification cards and a small Bible. Even in her final moments, she had clung to her faith. Her vehicle was found in the parking lot of the national park, along with a receipt for the gun she had purchased. The gun itself was found in the water hours after her body was discovered. Mica's final moments, captured on surveillance footage, paint a haunting picture of a woman seemingly resigned to her fate. In the grainy video, she can be seen purchasing a Sig Sauer half-hour handgun from Dick's pawn shop, mere hours before her lifeless body was found. The footage, devoid of any signs of coercion or distress, only adds to the perplexing nature of her death. But coincidentally, just 2 days before her death, Mica had served her estranged husband divorce papers. As the community grappled with the loss of Mica, disturbing allegations began to surface regarding her tumultuous marriage to John Paul Miller, the charismatic 44-year-old pastor of Solid Rock Church. Friends and family members came forward, revealing a pattern of emotional, mental, and spiritual abuse that had plagued Mica for years. Sierra Francis, Mica's sister, filed a chilling affidavit, recounting her sister's ominous words, "If I end up with a bullet in my head, it was not by me, it was JP." Mica and John Paul had met when Mica was 14, and John Paul was still a youth pastor. He had even officiated Mica's first marriage to his friend Jeremy, but after Mica began babysitting for John Paul and his wife Allison, the pair began an affair. Soon, both marriages ended in divorce, and while Jeremy and Allison both left the church, Mica and John Paul got married. It seemed like a match made in heaven. The once picture-perfect image of the Millers' marriage quickly unraveled after the news of Mica's death, exposing a dark underbelly of control and manipulation. Police reports and court documents revealed that Mica had been desperately trying to escape her husband's clutches. In the weeks leading up to the tragic event, Mica had reported finding Jeep's trackers on her car on multiple occasions, leading her to believe that John Paul was stalking her every move. John Paul claimed that the Jeep's trackers had been installed for her own safety because she had been diagnosed in 2017 with bipolar type 2, schizophrenia, and dependent personality disorder. As the investigation progressed, the silence from John Paul and his alleged refusal to cooperate with authorities only fueled suspicion. Questions began to swirl about his potential involvement in Mica's death, despite his seemingly airtight alibi of being at an athletic event in Charleston on the day of her passing. The couple's history of infidelity and John Paul's alleged affair with Susie Skinner, a member of the Solid Rock congregation whose husband had also died under mysterious circumstances, added another layer of intrigue to the case. John Paul eventually denied any wrongdoing, stating that before her death, Mica had been released from a mental health facility and had been committed against her will. Mica's family and friends refused to accept the official ruling of suicide, pointing to her detailed journals and her unwavering determination to build a new life free from John Paul's control. They argued that Mica, a devoted mother and a woman of faith, would never have taken her own life. As the case gained national attention, the Robeson County Sheriff's Office found itself under intense scrutiny. The department's handling of the investigation, including the decision not to perform a full autopsy, toxicology analysis, or gunshot residue test on Mica's remains, drew sharp criticism from those seeking justice for the young woman.